Well, good evening. My name is Daryl Rasmussen, and I'm currently the president of the Computer Science Alumni chapter of the U of C Alumni Association, and I'm very pleased to welcome all of our guests this evening, and especially our panelists for our How to Get a Job in IT panel discussion. The program this evening, I'm going to introduce the panelists just briefly by name, but then I'm going to give them each about 5 minutes maximum to speak a little bit further about themselves, possibly the company they represent, or why they are experts in the topic at hand this evening. And they are all actually, I think, really well qualified to talk to this topic, so I'm excited to hear their answers to some of the questions this evening. Once they've done their little introduction, I have prepared a few questions to ask them just to kind of get things moving. So hopefully we'll do prepared questions for maybe 20 minutes or so. And after that, I'll move this microphone out into the middle of the room there, and people who wish to ask a question can queue up in the aisle and ask whichever of our panelists they like. Before I do introduce them, I just wanted to mention that we have another event coming approximately a month from tonight. So on Thursday, the 17th of March, so yeah, that is St. Patrick's Day, is when we have our next event. And our next speaker is Professor Mike Williams from the Department of Computer Science. Many of you may have had some of his classes. I know I did when I was here. And so because he was and has been teaching with the university for such a long time, we're going to promote this event as a little bit of a reunion. Anybody who took a class from him, whether it was in 1980-something, 90-something, or in this millennia, come on out and see who else from your era is present. The topic that he has chosen, rather interestingly, is what to do if you don't have a computer. His abstract reads, "Before the modern computer was created, there was still a need for substantial amount of calculation. This talk will be a survey of the devices and methods that people used. Some examples will be trivial, while others were the result of brilliant minds trying to solve problems in both military and industrial situations. Almost all of them have been forgotten by computer scientists." So if you're interested in knowing a little bit about computing and calculations before the modern era and iPhones, then I'm sure it'll be a very interesting talk, and it's, like I said, going to be on March 17th. Our website will have his bio and the date and all the other pertinent info on it shortly on our upcoming events page, which currently has tonight's event on it. So one of my to-do lists for this weekend is to get that changed to our next event. We're also going to have an executive meeting for the 5 or 6 people who work diligently all the time to help coordinate and organize these events. That meeting, the next one, is actually Tuesday, coming up next week on the 27th. We're always looking for volunteers to assist in any small capacity, even if it's come 10 minutes or 20 minutes before the beginning of a session like this and help with the registration desk, and that's it. That's all you do for the year. That would be an assistance, and anything from that to joining the board. So if you're interested in knowing a little bit more, please come to our board meeting, which will also date, time, and location be posted on our website. And if you don't know our website address, grab one of those yellow Post-it note pads on the way out the door, because the address is on the bottom of it. So this evening, it's my pleasure to welcome our guests. I'm going to start with, at the very far end, we have Tisha Iglesias, who is with the HR department at ASO, the Alberta Electrical Services Operator. Next to her is Rod Anderson from Metaphor. In the center, we have Kim McNabb, who represents ArcCurve. And at the end, both from SI Systems, Jeff Cartwright and Nisha Manji. Is that correct? I always have to think how to pronounce things. So I guess we'll start at the far end and the other end, and we'll turn that over. Tisha, if you could just talk a little bit about yourself and why you think we invited you to come here tonight.
Sure, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here, to be able to be a part of the panel and with my other colleagues here. I am currently working with the Alberta Electric System Operator. So we are a independent system operator for Alberta, and we manage the electrical grid for the province. So we have a variety of different things that we do to ensure that the lights are on and stay on. And in my role in human resources, I'm a senior business partner. So I work very closely with my business client groups, one of them being information technology. I work very closely with our hiring managers, directors, and vice president of that division. Prior to the ISO, I have had various roles with other companies where I have either worked in an IT department, or I have worked in a role where I was looking for IT talent for any of our clients with regards to recruitment opportunities, whether those been contract opportunities or full-time opportunities. So with that being said, I do bring a collective amount of experience and knowledge with regards to my experiences working in IT, but then also more specifically my experiences on the recruitment side and understanding what hiring managers are looking for, understanding too how the industry is shifting, and also what are the leaders looking for today with regards to individuals that are within the IT discipline.
Great.
Thank you.
Rod.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Rod Anderson. I spent my entire career in IT. I've been on both sides of the business. My two longest tenures, I was with Husky as a senior manager, IT director for 10 years, Husky Energy, and my other 10 years stint I was with General Electric, and I ran their IT services and sales business for Western Canada. And I've had a number of other jobs, Credit Union Central, running their IT shop, and a few. So I've been on both sides of the business. Most recently, for the last 7 years, I've been in the resourcing business. I had my own company, and I've been working, with other companies as well. So I think I got a broad, good knowledge of both sides of the business. I understand the IT space very well.
Thank you. Kim?
Hi there, I'm Kim McNabb. I'm with a software services company here in Calgary called R-Curve. I've actually spent the afternoon here today interviewing business students at the School of Business with my colleague Joel in the back there. So we've had a lot of experience over the years, specifically in IT. Myself, I've been an HR generalist for about 15 years now in the Calgary market. I started my career in the IT field and have moved into a few other areas, including sort of the nonprofit industry and that type of thing. But then came back as a consultant in the IT and then joined R-Curve about 6-7 years ago. We're a software services organization. I've been the roles I've had previously have kind of spanned everything from a product organization to small startups to global oil and gas service companies that have IT departments. So a lot of opportunity to gain some insight and knowledge into sort of what the differences are between some of the industries within, but still staying focused on IT. So I'm excited to be here tonight and hopefully can embark some. I don't know if I always find it interesting in terms of recruitment. I think a lot of times both organizations as well as individuals are kind of looking for a bit of a magic bullet in terms of what's the place to go to find the perfect job, or how do you find the perfect candidate? What's the job board you use, or what's the avenue that you go down? And I think recruitment is a culmination of many different things. And finding the ideal job and finding the ideal candidate takes a tremendous amount of work and scope into what you both put into it. So I don't know that any of us are necessarily experts, but I think it's what we can share in terms of experience to help you on your search and your journey. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks.
Go ahead,
I'll
Jeff.
firstly say that I completely agree with you. I think we'll all add a different viewpoint as to what that magic bullet could look like. But I myself will add the perspective. We are a recruitment company. My name's Jeff Carrett. I've been with SI Systems in a managing director role for the past 2 months. I have spent 8 years in the business in Calgary. SI Systems, our website is a website that generates 600 jobs a month for IT consultants and 100,000 unique hits a month, thanks to people like yourself. Again, I think we would consider ourselves more generalist, so we work with a variety of clients in Calgary. We would fill roles from your help desk to your QA, your development, your PMs, your BAs, and we would act as a liaise between you and ultimately those clients in Calgary and folks like Tisha on the end. So again, I think we'll add some good perspective from the recruitment agency focus, and Nisha, my colleague's a recruiter that's working with us at SI. Do you want to say hi?
So, hi everyone. My name's Nisha, and I've been with SI Systems for a couple of years now, and I'm an IT recruiter, so I source for the jobs that we get from the ISO or whatever company that might be. And basically, I would meet with candidates like you to figure out your skill set and help you move forward.
Great. Well, I especially want to thank you, Nisha, for stepping in at the last minute. Our website, you may have noticed, had a slightly different plan for this evening, but unfortunately Janice has just been really ill all week, and so we really appreciate Nisha stepping in and jumping on this from the very last minute, so thank you for coming. So I have some prepared questions, and all of the panelists were given an advanced look at what those prepared questions were, so none of them be surprised by any of them. However, I'll let them choose, maybe if you'd like to answer a particular question, I'll throw it out in general, because sometimes more than one person might like to weigh in on a particular subject. So if you really want to answer that one, just grab the mic or jump in. If nobody is answering it, I'll just pick on someone. So in probably no particular order for the rest of you, but it's easy for me to remember, starting from the top. How's job hunting in IT today different from 5 years ago? Does anybody want to grab that one?
Sure.
Sure, go ahead.
I think the job market's changed a bit in that obviously with technologies like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, I think people are starting to manage their contacts a lot better and would encourage you to do so. We're certainly finding and creating business strategies for flow-through services, meaning you guys are actually the ones identifying the jobs. We're simply administering your contracts. So, working referrals, keeping in touch, using LinkedIn, using Facebook, I think they're all very important. We're certainly seeing an uptick in contingent workers and contract positions, specifically in IT versus full-time employment. So, having, a flexibility and an openness to taking on contract work versus full-time work is certainly something I would encourage. You guys have anything you wanted to add to that? Or?
No, I agree 100% with you. LinkedIn I find really important, so it's important, keep your competencies up in LinkedIn, because I know when the recruiters and that are doing, they're doing keyword searches on things, so it's really important that I'd really highly recommend you keep your competencies up there. Yeah, that's it.
I'm going to deviate from the script already. Jeff, you threw the term pass-through in while you were speaking, and because maybe not everybody here has been too familiar with the contracting environment, maybe you could just speak for a second about pass-through versus a regular contract.
Sure. So a lot of enterprise organizations will have specific requirements when dealing with a third party, a contractor, a business like our curve, and will require you to carry insurance, meet any compliancy requirements to be eligible to work on site. So what they'll do is they'll actually, even though they found you, rather than engaging with you direct, they will ask you to go through a third party, whether it be an agency in our curve, to administer that contract. There's also, I won't get into PSB or anything like that, but there's also reasons from a CRA regulation perspective that you should be channeling your services through a third party in order to truly reflect a contract worker versus being an employee from a remittances perspective for your statutory burdens. I hope that was clear.
Yeah. Hopefully that helped.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
can jump in a little bit
Sure.
too in
Great.
terms of just going in terms of the differences from an employer perspective. I think one of the things that we're seeing is a breakdown of sort of some of the traditional sort of requirements that you look for in a candidate. And so if you've heard some myths out there in terms of what recruiters look for, and the panel can maybe speak to this. So, previously you would, breaks in a chronological order in a resume were considered a bad thing. There wasn't necessarily an openness to talking about work-life balance. It was sort of, you're supposed to come in, be focused on the job, that sort of thing. So what I think we're really seeing in the last 5 years, not only in IT, but probably a little bit more generally, is sort of introduction of more generations into the workplace. And with those generations coming in, those of you that are either entering the workforce for the first time or maybe switching careers, you just want to, I think, be cognizant of the fact that some of those myths shouldn't exist necessarily in the workplace as they did at one point. And so there's a much more openness to, a career as sort of a progression and, moving around a lot more, taking advantage of each opportunity as a particular project and what experience does that contribute to you as an overall candidate. And so just breaking down a few of sort of some of those traditional things that have been in existence previously in the workplace.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so question 2. In addition to your degree in computer science, what skill or ability do you recommend that alumni or soon-to-be alumni cultivate in order to improve their chances of landing a dream job in IT?
Can I be really talkative and jump in on
I was about to jump in too.
So I would feel very strong. I would say 3: networking, networking, networking.
100%.
Yeah, would kind of be, and I think that's something that we still have a bit of a challenge with in terms of with sort of coupling post-secondary education with sort of real life experience. But definitely I think that's one thing. I got my first job as an HR internship student at a Christmas party at a startup company that I was attending with my spouse, type thing. So, and that was what, I hadn't targeted the IT industry, that wasn't what, and that was sort of what, kind of launched my career and created a network. And it took me a while, I think, in my career to recognize the importance of that. And then to learn how to cultivate it. And you know what, it's still, as an HR professional, it's still things that I work with my line managers and some of my new recruits and that sort of thing on learning how to do. Because it's not something that's necessarily innate to individuals. It's not something everybody's good at. And it's not necessarily something we naturally know how to do. It's something you have to work at and you have to kind of learn how to do that.
You'd be surprised how many people, like a lot of people, like it's hard work, networking's hard work, and like you said, it's some comes easier to some than others, but you'd be surprised how many people, if you just pick up the phone, the good ones are going to talk to you. You phone an HR or you phone a hiring manager. I'd also suggest go on the company websites and look at the jobs there, but just get out there and network and talk to people, because you'll be surprised how many people will take the time.
And then use LinkedIn, right?
And then use LinkedIn, yeah.
And find out who you know that might be at that organization that you can talk to.
Yeah.
Right?
Because most people will accept your LinkedIn invite, right?
And I think one more thing to add to that is, if you are shy and you're not great at communicating, go take a Toastmasters class or something that can really improve your communication skills. Because obviously you're not just going to walk up to somebody on the street and be like, hey. So take a Toastmasters skills class or something like that. It'll help.
Your communication skills, it's your interviewing, it's your networking, it's once you're in an organization, communicating your ideas effectively to progress. It is such an important skill, and I think Toastmasters is a great example of something you can do. I mean, I don't see a lot of people sitting at the front of the room. I mean, we're all, I think by nature, a bit shy. It's tough for me to sit here and communicate in front of a group, and I took this opportunity to also learn to communicate better myself. So I think it's absolutely a critical skill to add.
I would also add, in support of the other panel members, that building relationships is key. It's paramount. And when you get into the workforce, when you are actually in your role, whether it be a developer, QA, or whatever discipline that you decide you want to specialize in, you're going to be in a department, you're going to be on a team, you'll probably be on a project team at some point, and you're going to have to interact and hopefully start using the skills that you've tested out and started to refine in networking and being out there. And you're going to have to be proactive to ask some questions that people are not necessarily just going to give you the answers to. It's going to be a stretch, but it's very important on learning those skills early, on how do you build those relationships, how do you truly become a business partner. And I could say that working within a few IT companies and now working within my role where I'm supporting the IT department as a business partner, that's where they're looking for their individuals within various roles within IT to do, is how do you partner with the business? How do you really understand their needs? How do you start to take that understanding and offer the solution that they're looking for, but yet know how to do it in a way where you're not offering the solution because you've architected and you're so personally attached to your work. You're offering the solution based off of the feedback that they're giving you, that you know from asking questions and from soliciting the information and just listening, that they're going to tell you, this is what I need, these are my constraints, but this is what I need the system to do, or this is what I'm looking for here. And then for you to come to them and say, well, you could go here, here, or here. Which do you prefer and what are you looking for? So the things of knowing and learning how to build your network, putting yourself out there and kind of breaking through the shell if you naturally are not totally the extroverted person. Those are all very, very important things that will set you up and build up your toolkit for when you are in your professional roles and you're dealing with and working with internal clients or external clients and doing the work, but truly adding value and separating yourself as well too.
Great. Okay, well, we've talked a little bit about this one already, so I'm going to skip the question on online presence like LinkedIn and Facebook. Let's go to something about and I'm going to change this just slightly. My original question is, how is looking for a job in IT in Calgary different from other markets? I'm just going to, given the recent events in the economy, add, how is looking for a job in IT Calgary this week different from other markets or from how it may have been very recently?
Let's go back to when oil was $80.
Rod, you worked with a number of different companies and had one of your own for a while. How is Calgary different than other markets?
Unfortunately or fortunately, I've been through a few of these cycles, so yeah, it's a very tough market out there right now, and everything you're reading about companies laying off contractors and that, it's absolutely not. So it makes the task at hand a little harder, but the networking even becomes more important, and you can't give up, or you can't get disillusioned. You just got to keep at it. Like your LinkedIn, your networking, your going onto the company websites and seeing what they got. If you know people in the industry, call them up, see what's going on. That's how it works. Yeah, it's going to be tough out there for the next little while, but your entry-level positions might not be quite as tough to have as, if you're a PM or if you're a senior BA or something like that. And, so it's hard work, but just get out there and network. And we've already said this once, but you can't and make your LinkedIn your profile look very professional. And don't get on LinkedIn and start talking about all your social ideas and all you think about all this stuff. Keep it specific.
So the frat party last week?
I've got a lot of LinkedIn contents, and I just get rid of them. The first time somebody starts talking about some social issue or something like that, that's not LinkedIn. Keep it professional.
Yeah, I think we keep coming back to communication, professionalism. I mean, it's no different in Calgary than it is in Toronto, than it is in Montreal. Sure, we have a bit less of a diversification in terms of industry, but I mean, ultimately, this is getting a job. It's tough work. You have to have a plan, and I think we're talking about online presence, communicating, networking. These are ultimately the things you need to do. Meeting with recruiters.
Yeah, and just keep applying. And don't expect that you put a position in, an application in for a position and you're just gonna wait on that call. Apply to other positions, like keep the mind open and keep going.
And I would maybe just add to that, I don't know if it's unique to Calgary, but I think certainly one of the things that we learn over the years is that Calgary, especially IT in Calgary, is it's a bit of a smaller community than some of the other IT communities you're going to face, right? If you compare it to, you know, a Redmond where Microsoft operates or those sorts of things, right? It's a very close-knit community. I'm now working with people that I worked with 15 years ago that I never thought I would see again, right? That maybe I laid off in a particular situation, right? Or things didn't progress well. So one of the things you want to keep in mind, especially as you embark on your career, and again, I wish somebody had kind of told me this right out of the gate, is that, you know, reputation is everything. You want to, you know, give everything your all, do your best work, and make sure when you leave a situation that you leave it in as positive a manner as possible, right? Those of us in the HR profession on the panel that have, you know, unfortunately been through situations, right, where you deal with the negative as well as the positive, there's still a positive way to deal with the negative. And what you want to be able to think in the back of your mind is, have I handled this situation in a way that when I come across this person again, not if, when, will I be able to interact with them in a professional manner?
And also the crawl before you walk as well too. You know, starting out new in your professional career, it's all about looking for the opportunities that you're going to get that is going to give you the business acumen, the actual experience that you're looking for. You know, you've done all this work, you've gotten your degree, now you're ready to hit the professional world. Well, everything is not going to come to you right away at your fingertips. And so, you know, there is a time that you need to kind of, you know, put in and learn from those within the respective companies that you work for. You know, seek out the opportunities that they have internally for learning and development, any other programs that they have, and you know, kind of be that sponge, but also recognize that the upward growth and mobility may not happen rapid fast, but there is definitely an enriching experience sometimes for just being kind of steadfast and allowing the opportunities that will come for you to come.
Okay, well, let's try this one. What's the most memorable thing that a candidate ever did or said in a good way? I don't want to hear horror stories. In a good way,
We really want
which
to tell the other
helped,
stories.
Yeah, I know.
which helped him or her to stand out from their competition.
I'm going to give a pretty boring answer to this one. I think ultimately the ones that we tend to remember are those who are genuine, authentic, enthusiastic, passionate. I mean, I hate to sound so cliche, but it's really those people that are excited about the work that they do that we tend to remember. Avoid, you know, sending them a sock and saying, "Oh, I got my foot in the door," and you know, corny things like that. I mean, it really, again, it might be a good story to tell, but for us, again, we do want to see passion. I mean, you guys are working very hard right now towards your education, and you know, you're a lot smarter than me sitting here. So you know, let that speak for itself, and you know, just show your passion. That's what's most memorable to me.
And preparation. I mean, it's very clear and telling in an interview process when a candidate has prepared, where they've thought of, you know, various different questions. There's lots of resources online, you know, interviewing questions, behavioral interviewing questions, situational type interview questions, and how to really prepare for that role. And if you are using an agency where there's a recruiter that's working with you, then you leverage that professional, because they know they're professionals in their industry. They've been there, they know their client as well too, and have a good understanding as to what their client's looking for. So you really want to leverage that and leverage any preparation, you know, advice that they can give you as well in terms of going into that interview for the first time. It's very telling. You can tell a candidate who truly is interested, who actually truly read the role, knows what the role is, at least from the posting perspective, has done a little bit of research about the company and knows, you know, generally their operations and what they do, versus somebody who, oh, this is what that position was, and you can tell it was just kind of I threw my posting in, and I don't know, maybe I'll get a call, who knows what happens, you know, and see where it goes from there. And clients and hiring managers are gonna go with the person that they feel truly is attached to the role and has that engagement in the process.
Yeah, and I would, just to expand on what my fellow panelists said, just to give you a concrete example, we recently hired a marketing communication specialist. So we had a wide range of applicants when we posted for it. So we had, something that stands out is we had two different candidates. One who both prepared very well for the interview. So, but one came literally with a binder, color-coded tabs, laminated sheets, the whole bit of her portfolio. Beautiful, well-organized, spoke to a very generalist marketing communication specialist that you would do in any role in any organization in Calgary. The candidate, the successful candidate that we hired and is now working with us, came to us with a plan around how to redesign our website. So she had gone on to our website, she had spent some time in there, she highlighted what she thought were the strengths and weaknesses of what we were communicating, where she thought we could improve. And again, done in a very diplomatic, you don't want to come into a situation where maybe you're talking to the person that designed the website and they might take offense, but in a very professional manner, was able to kind of say, hey, here's what I think you're doing really well today, and here's where I think I can bring my skills and experience to play in your organization and improve and take you to the next level, right? And so that's kind of a concrete example of where, you know, somebody that really kind of stood out and really spoke to us and speaks to both the engagement and the authenticity as well as the preparation.
Yeah, great example, thank you. Okay, so other than obviously preparation and, you know, you gotta have a good LinkedIn profile, everybody's got a good resume. Is there other supplemental materials that the candidates should prepare in order to add value to them in landing that job?
I think a nice touch is a follow-up email or phone call to thank the interviewers for their time and the opportunity. In the interview, you're going to typically get a lot more information about the role, about the company. You're going to start to get a sense, is this a place where I want to work, and, you know, do my values line up with the values of this organization and what they say that they do and what they represent? You know, is this a potential hiring manager that I feel like is a person that I could work for, and do I think that they would be an advocate for me if I was their employee and kind of see in me the potential? And if you're feeling all that good energy and those good vibes, it's a great little touch to reach out and say, thank for the opportunity, thank for the time, you know, reaffirm your interest in the role, reaffirm some of the things that you felt that, you know, you were pulling out or drawing out, and you're getting a lot of the head nods and good responses with regards to the strengths that you have for the opportunity and for the position. And also, it's a great opportunity that if there was something that came out in the interviewing process that maybe you actually have some experience on and you didn't think to put it on the resume, or you can pull in some related experience on how that relates to the role. It's a great way to kind of anchor that and say, oh, and, you know, when we talked about this particular subject area, just to you know, reaffirm in our discussion how, you know, my experience in this particular, you know, relates. And it's a nice little way to just kind of leave that lasting impression in their mind of you as a candidate, and summarize again for them, you know, the whole overall conversation with regards to
Cookies are good too.
Yeah, anything like that.
Oh no, we had barbecue, didn't we? We had somebody send barbecue once. They looked up, we host a huge client event once a year that's like out in the country. We bring in this particular caterer that does, like, you know, pulled pork, beef, all this weird meat stuff. I'm not good with the meat. And so they contacted the caterer and had barbecue delivered for lunch for everybody for the next day.
I think Daryl said that everybody has a good resume. Well, let me tell you, I think all of us have, no, this is very serious. All of us have looked at thousands of resumes. So don't roll your eyes. Tell you, the more specific you can make it to the role you're going after, the better. Because that tells the person that's reading that resume that, you know, you actually looked at the job specifications. And so that's one very key thing. A second thing is your summary. There's a lot of people that look at a lot of resumes, and call us lazy, call us whatever you want. We're going to look at the first 5, 6, 7, 8 sentences of your business summary or summary, whatever you want. We're going to look how well it's formatted. You know, very important that you do a good job there and you spend time. Because if you don't, you know, especially in this market space, you know, you're gonna be in trouble. And people, and you might be the best candidate for the role. You could have the best skills, and you're not going to get it because of the
Not making-
reader's going to thought either this person is lazy or this person doesn't care or whatever. So you can't spend too much time on your resume. And you might have 4 resumes, you might have 5 resumes. And the
That's
more
very true.
experience you get, tailor it for the opportunity.
And I would say specifically in IT, the other thing we look for is creativity, right? So ultimately, a lot of what software development is problem solving and being creative in providing solutions. So we quite often look for, I don't know if you guys have pre-screening things that you go for, but we look for, talk to us about something creative that you've done. We don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be a sample of code. It could be a painting. It could be, but we just want to see, music we often find is a huge tie-in, right, to some of the strengths that we're looking for. So, you know, sometimes we just ask for, you know, especially if we're trying to decide between candidates that are fairly comparable on paper, right? And it doesn't mean you have to come in with a portfolio or something, but just, you know, being able to speak to something that you do that's in sort of the same space of how you think and how you problem solve.
Well, that gets me to about halfway through the questions that I prepared, and also coincidentally that sort of half hour roughly that I said I would keep. So I'm willing to give this microphone up now and let anybody who has a question from the audience come and ask it. Or if nobody really can think of anything, I got a bunch more, I can just keep going. So if you want to come up, come on up.
Can we ask a question of you?
Right there.
How many of you do cover letters when you apply? And do you tailor them to the organizations? I think that goes a little bit to what we were saying as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Robert Reed. I just had a quick question. What are the programming languages and technologies that are most in demand by companies today?
You start?
A lot of .NET. You know,
Yeah.
you know, I would say, I don't know where you put SharePoint. I think it's not a program language, but .NET, SQL, right?
Yeah. Good done.
I would say you're .NET. The languages within .NET are by and far the more common ones that we're recruiting on for our enterprise clients. A lot of
Okay.
Microsoft shops. And stuff, yeah.
Right.
And I think what you have to remember is that you are dealing with, right, large organizations that have infrastructure in place usually, right? So some of the challenges we have is that, you know, a lot of people want to kind of use the latest, greatest, coolest technology,
Right.
but ultimately that doesn't necessarily work if you're going into an organization that has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on Microsoft infrastructure and technology, right? What's going to work is what they're able to support within that infrastructure. So it's probably a little bit more practical than necessarily latest and greatest.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And it's a good question to ask when you, especially if you're going in a company, to your point, find out what the work is, right? I mean, if you're supporting an ancient application, it doesn't matter what language it is, it's going to be pretty boring for you. So if you do want to do new development work and, you know, you want to find out about the work you're doing on the
Yeah.
onset of the job, for sure.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Oh, you want coming?
My name's Lily Wong. My question is, years ago when I was laid off, I was told there was something called the hidden job market. So would you say that's still apropos today? And what percentage of jobs in IT do you think are in that hidden job market.
Yeah, that's a tough one. There's definitely a hidden, if what you're referring to is like, that never get posted, like
Yeah.
never get, that they're just, it's out there. I don't know if it's any greater than it was, years ago, but that's where networking is really important. Because that's where you're gonna find out about these things, right? You're gonna call a friend and say, hey, look, I just got laid off. And by the way, there's no stigma with that, with getting laid off, right? I mean, you think, well, I got laid off here. Well, I mean, that's just, you look at just about anybody's career, and somebody's been laid off, right? So, when I'm coaching some people and that on their profiles or something like that, well, should they say, well, it's like, oh, yeah, you were. I mean, you got a gap of 18 months or something like that. I mean, be honest about it, right? People like that. So, I don't know if I answered your question, but the way to find out about, yes, there is, that market is out there, I believe. Networking is going to help you.
And,
Yeah.
and maintaining your network as well too, because there's one thing of networking and meeting new people and knowing who's who and where do you work and what do you do and that, but it's also important to stay in touch with former managers, former supervisors, because you never know when you'll come full circle with them again, and they could be in a situation where they are a hiring manager. And, it's as simple as just meeting up for coffee or whatever, and what are you doing, and let me tell you about some of the work that I'm doing. And, when those hidden opportunities come up where, within an organization they're not necessarily going to post, I think lots of us in our roles as working as a recruiter, or my side, also on the other side, we know that there's opportunities where it's a who you know network, and they're the candidates that get considered because timing is an issue. There's some kind of a constraint within the organization at the time where they don't have the time to go out external and post for 2 or 3 weeks, then interview for another 2 or 3 weeks. So if you're maintaining those relationships with former managers or supervisors and making sure that they, have some recency information with regards to what you're working on and what you're doing in your new roles, then that's always a great way to potentially tap into those hidden opportunities.
And be flexible. Be flexible. Like if you I got the ability to travel,
Right.
Take it. If somebody says, well, do you mind travel or do you mind relocating? When you're starting out, the right answer is yes, right? Unless you, so don't, keep all your options open. And circle back when you're networking. Circle back with the people. The good people don't mind. I mean, don't circle back every day, everything, but every month or something. Most people don't mind you just putting in a quick email or putting in a quick text to them and ask them, hey, I'm still looking. Has anything changed there? And the good ones will respond back to you.
I think we're starting to see a theme here with networking.
Yeah.
Ultimately, just to throw my 2 cents in, there absolutely is a hidden job market. I mean, we have built at SI System, I talk about that pass-through model, where we have built a line of business around supporting that networking effort. And we're almost a $400 million company, and it's 51% of our revenue. So, we built a $200 million line of business that supports the hidden job market and the a guy, so he got you a job on a project market. So I think there absolutely is, and it's supported by networking, for sure.
Yeah. And I just wanted to add this anecdote because it was in the time I was laid off from Dome when it was very unusual to be laid off. But one of the best things I learned from the course they sent us on was if you are one of the 2 candidates considered for a position and they didn't select you, try to find out what the other guy's position was and then go after that job. As you can say, I was the alternate.
Hi, I'm Kerry. I'm a professor in the department here. A lot of our students, whether undergrad or grad students, their dream job seems to be either Google, Microsoft, or Amazon. And they seem to forget that there's an IT market here in Calgary. So what are some of the unique, the value here in the IT market that people should know about that they don't want to overlook?
I would say, having grown up in Ontario and migrated to Alberta, I've always been fascinated by the resource business and just seeing how important it is to the country and really to our economy. I think being able to support that from an IT perspective is very meaningful work. I mean, these are great companies and companies that lead our economic growth. I mean, certainly we have our times like right now, but we're a resilient bunch, and I think it's a great industry to be a part of. So I certainly wouldn't overlook the opportunity. I mean, these are some of the biggest companies in North America that are right here and available for you to hone your skills in. And as I said, big companies, large infrastructure, complex IT. I think it's an excellent opportunity to build your craft here.
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree. Like good or bad with the resource industry here, even though a lot of your skills are not specific to the oil and gas industry, it's really interesting. And I'd say the more senior the role is, the more they're saying, if it's with one of the resource companies, they're saying, well, does this guy or gal have oil and gas experience? And you can be looking at a resume where the person's got all the skills. So I guess one thing you have to do if you can, if you want to stay in Calgary, and that is one of the good things to do is eventually try to get a job in the oil and gas. You don't have to stay in there because there's lots of other companies outside of it, but getting oil and gas experience certainly does increase your options. You just
And I think it's a bit of coupling that, when you think of a Google or that sort of thing, you're kind of thinking of, sort of the ultimate IT environment in terms of, hey, I can, brainstorm with some of the best and, some of the latest technologies and that sort of thing. So I think Calgary offers a bit of a practical component in terms of coupling, knowledge and creativity around IT and development specifically with the practical side of how is it used in business? How is it used to move things forward? How can it be used to, help business process or, just make things more efficient or that sort of thing. So it's a nice pairing of sort of the practical as well as kind of that, you'll find in terms of just the, environment in terms of cool office space and, like-minded people to brainstorm with and that sort of thing. You'll find those in the pure tech companies here in Calgary. And then it's the pairing with the, the practical application of, okay, now how can I use this to benefit industry, right? And that's where we see a lot of people, that's what kind of motivates them in our industry today, right? Is being able to see something through sort of start to completion. And I think that's a big difference, sort of again with a lot of the product companies versus a lot of the service organizations. You don't have the flexibility in a service organization. You're being paid and monitored by a client to deliver a solution on something that you've been hired to do. It's not necessarily like, oh, let's play with this project and see if it goes anywhere, and if it doesn't, we'll just shelf it, and my results and my work will never be seen by anybody, right? There's a very practical implementation, and you get to see the results of your work.
And
I'm
I
going to
think,
throw one, sorry.
no, it's okay.
Go ahead. I'll just throw one thing quickly. The other interesting thing is there is definitely a shift in Alberta. Traditionally, I don't think IT has been a priority to a lot of the resource companies. They were getting oil out of the ground, making a ton of money without it. They're starting to see the advantage to investing in IT, and it's actually being seen more as a value add than a cost center to the business. So, as an IT professional, times are changing. There's a lot more willingness to spend money on exciting new technologies. So I think it is one of the greater places in Canada for sure to be starting your IT career, no doubt.
Yeah, and I was just going to add that there are in Calgary a lot of even, medium-sized companies that have adopted that Google type, way of work, if you want to say, into their organizations, and they've tapped into, demographics in the workplace. What are the things that are going to keep people interested in putting in, their all into the job, and there are a lot of companies locally outside of the main big industries here in Alberta that are adopting that type of way of work into the organization. So, you know, it's a matter of seeking, and you will find it may not be very intuitive, right? From the names, well, what does this company do and what does that company do? But I think that definitely we've seen a shift, and to Jeff's point, the IT industry definitely, I think, is also shifting with regards to, you know, kind of how it used to run and operate 5-10 years ago to now needing to be more flexible and adaptive, wanting an agile workforce. You know, you start to see organizations that even in a developer role, they're looking for developers that can do maybe a little bit of QA if needed, could take on some project management if they want to, can do some of the BA, business analysis type work as well. So, you know, looking at hybrid roles as well too, and where you can be dynamic and not just totally box yourself off into just one stream, but also show that you have that capability if that's something that you want to do to be flexible and to be able to be thrown into different areas being one person.
A real cool company in Calgary is Critical Mass. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Check their website out. I mean, they're an international company now, started here. I mean, Mercedes-Benz, I mean, everybody knows Mercedes-Benz. I mean, they developed their website, so take a look at their, you guys that are really interested in development roles and that, check out Critical Mass. Great.
Pay you for that, or?
Actually, my niece is the assistant. My niece is the assistant to the CEO. So
This
yeah,
message has been
$20
brought to you by.
$20 for that.
Hi, yeah, I have a couple of questions. So the first one is a short one. Is it a good practice to make a different style or layout for the resume? Like, because most resumes are like short summary and education, qualifications, and hobbies and that kind of thing. So
It depends on the job that you're going for. If it's a real technical role and it's going to be somebody really technical, they're going to want to see, I would still say it's got to be formatted very well, and you've got to have a really good summary. But then the reader is going to go in and they're going to take a look at all your technical skills. And I've seen some of the really good ones that say, you know, whatever the different skill is, 7 years or, you know, expert level or something like that. So it really depends on the role that you're going after. You know,
But just make sure still it's clear and easy to read.
Yeah.
Don't clutter your resume.
sure,
Yeah, and that's also a little bit, you know, explicit in your different roles that you've had, what type of technical languages and domains that you've been working in. Because one of the things that you can do definitely is do an overall summary, but then, you know, for anybody that's reviewing the resume, they're not going to know, well, in your current job, what programming language have you used, or do you have the SQL in this role, or do you have the Oracle? You know, it's easier to identify what type of the programming languages or domains in that particular role have you been working with. So then they can see the collective overall experience. Oh yeah, I see here, and here, and then in these other roles, you've got this other experience.
and if they want to drill down further, your summary has pointed out where they could look in your resume to find
Exactly.
more experience.
Exactly.
I think as a recruitment agency, we're a bit more transactional, and as much as I'd love to see some flary, creative resume, ultimately 95% of my clients just want to, you know, understand, you know, your skill set, and I think erring on the side of traditional is probably a bit safer.
okay.
You know, there might be
Yeah.
some clients that would just prefer to understand,
Yeah.
you know, what your skills and what the technologies and what the projects that you worked on and so on and so forth.
Or again, a bit of the role. Like we hired a UI expert recently, so user interface, right? Coolest resume I've ever seen, and I expected it to be cool. If his resume doesn't look good, then I'm concerned about what his user interface design is going to be, right? So
Yeah, because
depending on the
I can't send any barbecue or anything.
Yeah,
to your
exactly.
office.
Yeah.
And the second question is, one of the things that I focus on my resume is problem solving, right? And this is something that I see advertising. I see myself, and I don't see in so many students. They can just write a code, maybe fast, but they cannot figure out how to solve a big problem, or I don't know, boil it down to a simple question. How do I do it? But I can't. So how do you find it in an applicant who you're interviewing? You know.
So for us, that would be, we would take the problem solver over the coding fast coder any day, right? So to me, the fundamental programming languages are going to change, right? In the last 5 years and going forward, the one certainty that we have is the technology is going to change, right? So your ability to be able to problem solve, to be pragmatic, to look for solutions, to be creative, those are core competencies that should underlie any technical skill set that you have, right? And so for us, it's really, and that's what we use, our interview process is quite lengthy and quite involved, and it's to get exactly at that. At the end of the day, we can tell, like this, whether you know C++ or Java or, right? I can bring a technical person in, they can ask you 5 questions and tell me what your level with that is. What we need to know is, if we put a problem before you that you need to solve, how do you go about doing that?
Okay, how can you tell?
So for us, and it's going back actually, I mean, to the resume, so if we're going outside of our network and we're simply looking at candidates cold, what we're doing is I go directly, like when I get a resume in, I go directly to experience. So what I need you to be able to extract on that resume is, what have you done with the skills? What have you been able to achieve that shows me what you've had to do beneath the scenes, right? So I don't necessarily want to know that you created a website in, you know, WordPress or something like that. I need to know, what were the business challenges you faced? Did you deliver on time, on budget, those sorts of things. So we look much more for an experiential-based resume and description. So that's the first step, right, is trying to highlight that right off the bat. And then it's being able to demonstrate those skill sets in an interview situation, right? And, you know, having spent the entire afternoon interviewing with students, right, one of the things that we were coaching them on this afternoon is the interview process is a two-way street. And you need to drive that as much as the employer needs to drive it, right? So you need to be able to take a situation or a question that they might ask you and provide the answer that you want to provide to highlight your skill set, right? And you should be able to do that within the context of what they're asking you, right? You should be able to kind of steer, even if they don't come out and say, tell me about a time that you solved the most difficult problem, which is a question that we ask. But if you don't get asked that question, figure out what are the questions that they're asking you that you can relate to problem solving.
Absolutely, and in the interview, like, your problem is answering the questions as best as you can to give in detail your experience and why you're the best person for the role. And the interviewer, the organization, the employer, whether it's a recruiter from an agency or if it's in-house, they're trying to see, are you the right fit? And to Kim's comments, organizations will go with fit over qualifications because you can train people on skill, you can train them on your systems, you can train them on your processes, you can train that. But the fit is something that costs organizations time and money if the fit is not right. And so, you know, those are the things in highlighting, you know, who you are. So it is very important, as Kim said, to be very attentive in the interviewing process, to listen to what they're asking for, to answer the question, but to give a value-added answer with regards to what it is. And it is your thought process, your critical thinking through the answers, which is what the interviewers are analyzing. You know, it doesn't even matter if you answer the question right sometimes in terms of what they would be looking for. It's about your thought process on how you got to that answer.
Yeah, I've actually seen development companies, to your point, give you a problem.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Very true.
You know, so, okay, so you go show us your creativity, you know, they give you a day or two or something like that, and then we're back, and that's part of the, you're told up front that that's gonna be part of the interview process, but they'll give you an actual problem to go solve. So that, in your case, the way it sounds like to me, you would really like that, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, okay, and where that would, it sounds to me like that would put you in a, you know, a brighter light, if you like, right? So-
And the other thing is then is to hunt out companies
Yeah.
that you get a feel that that's important to them. So if you were to be applying for a job at R-Curve, currently, right now, we're looking for internship students. Rather than posting a job description for an internship, we've posted a problem that we expect you to solve, right? So even if I've had people that are fresh out, they're not necessarily applying for internship, they'll solve the internship problem. Hey, I found this on your website, really cool, wanted to provide my answer. Great, awesome, right? Perfect opportunity. We have 2 resume email addresses. One is explicitly stated, the other is a problem that you have to solve to get the encoded resume address, right? So get a feel for the organizations that you're applying for. Honestly, problem solving is a lot more important in some organizations than it is in the other. So you need to do your homework a little bit too to make sure there's a good fit there, and that, you know, what you value and what you're good at is lining up with what they're looking for.
And the last question is more personal, but I'm an international student, and so I've been here like 2 years, and so I don't have any network, right? I have a few friends, but industry network, yeah. And I want to say it's not fair to hire people who are close to you, or a friend's kids, something like that. So how does that work?
I honestly think if you are new, coming to things like this, like where you can network with people that are in your community, network with us, things like that, that's what's going to get you ahead slowly. Obviously, it's not fair that that guy's daughter might get the position over you because they know them, but that is society. So I think just making yourself available at these types of events, other events related to your field, that's how you're going to get yourself out there more.
Yeah, and you said you have a network of friends. They have a network. Tap into their network, right? Something that we do at R-Curve, right? So when we started with a core group of individuals that had a network in Calgary, but every new person that comes into our organization brings a new network, right? So one of the programs that we initiated a little while ago is called Tap Your Network, and we literally give new people, after 3 months, we give them a coffee card to Starbucks, right? Something as easy as that. And it's like, hey, take somebody in your network out and talk to them about R-Curve. Tell them what it's about, why you like working here, you know, what opportunities we have available, that sort of thing. So everybody around you has a network, so tap into theirs and get them to introduce you to people and make connections and start that process. And that's how it grows exponentially. It's like something going viral. Right?
Yep. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, hi, my name's Alan Goodbrand, and I graduated from here several decades ago. I've been cutting code for about 45 years now. And what you've said is...
You probably could have answered a lot more of these questions better than we can.
Well, in terms of that, but you know, what you've said has confirmed my worst fears, and that is that the skill to get a job is more important than the skill to do a job. And so what do you do with the 35-year-old mad genius who is in his mom's basement cutting beautiful code 18 hours a day, has absolutely no social skills, has no network? How does he end up finding a job? So that's question one. And the second one is, you know, you're talking about getting work here in Calgary. With the internet, why does location still matter? Because right now, my 2 main clients, one is in Toronto and one's in Sydney, Australia. You know, I've done work for companies in Europe and all over the place. And to be quite frank, right now I have no business in Calgary. All of my business is elsewhere. So why does location still matter?
I personally think a lot of clients, they like to have an environment, they like to have a workforce, they like to have that personal interaction. So I think that's still why it is important to not just focus on remote work. If you have that business and clientele, that's great, but if you don't have that network or that business, branching out, and that is why clients in Calgary like to have that face-to-face interaction and have that
Skype gives you that face-to-face.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you. There's a lot more, there's actually a lot more clients, the City of Calgary, Alberta Health, that are investing in work from home initiatives. reducing their real estate footprint because and leveraging technology to do so. So there's definitely, a remote workforce push. We're seeing a lot more, so that's good.
Good.
To answer your first question, I think you just got to get out. I mean, you're clearly a really funny guy, and I think.
I'm not saying it's me.
Yeah. Okay. Touche.
I'm much older than 35.
No, but ultimately, it is very competitive. I think, I hate to confirm your worst fear, but we're even sitting in a room full of new graduates here. There's more coming online every quarter, and it is a small community, right? And it unfortunately is very competitive. I would suggest using all of these means at the panel. Hook up with 3 or 4 agencies, apply to jobs with HR, talk to your professional service providers, and be very detailed and rigorous about where you've sent your resume and that follow-up and doing the LinkedIn things and reverse networking into the, it is a tough thing to find a job, and even tougher in an economy like this. We're not trying to, I don't think anyone said it's easy. But those are really my suggestions. There's a multitude of avenues to get in, and you should pursue every single one of them.
Just one other comment I have is on the remote. It happens quite often is I have that question posed to me. And a lot of times, once the client becomes comfortable with you, it's not an issue. But what I always coach the person, unless they don't need the job or something like that, I'd really like to work remotely. I'd say, okay, is it absolutely necessary that you do that? And if they say no, then I would suggest that they go in there, they get comfortable with the client. 99% of the time after that, it's not an issue. They know how professional you are, they know how responsive you are, you're not slacking off. So it's not a problem. But sometimes it's just human nature. They want to see you. They don't know you. They want to see you, see how you act, how you interact with people. And I don't know what to do with the poor guy that's got no social skills.
But I was going to say, hypothetically speaking, if this person, if we were speaking to them directly and asking him if he's been coding in the basement for 35 years, is he happy with that environment and with that role, right? Because what we're speaking to today is, how to get a job. But there's many different types of job in IT, and there's many different types of work environments, and there's many different. And so, I think we're all leaning towards a little bit more of an office environment, a 9 to 5, a little bit more of a traditional. But there's lots of like the remote workforce, right? That's coming along, that sort of thing. So again, make sure that you're tailoring your job search to your values, your passions, what you're comfortable doing. And at the end of the day, if it does come down to the fact of, at the end of the day, you need some place to cut code, we have a few of those basement dwellers.
Okay, thanks.
Hello, my name is Mohammed Bani Jamali. I've been in the industry for a little over 20 years. My question has to do with how do you write a resume for someone like myself who has worked on systems that were considered legacy system 20 years ago? Do they still want to see that I worked on that? Do they care about, because it's making my resume very long. And it's, I have, massaged it in many different ways to make it shorter and shorter, and I've ended up with 3 pieces to the resume: the cover letter, the resume, and then the extended version type of a thing.
We run into that all the time, right? So that's not a big problem, okay?
Yeah.
My answer to that is look at the job that you're applying for, the job that you're looking for. Make sure that your resume initially speaks to that.
Okay.
And then, your legacy systems and all that, you can put it in 2 or 3 sentences at the bottom. But if it's not germane to the particular role that you're going at, don't talk about it in your opening summary. And if you do, just mention it very briefly. So does that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So as far as writing the I guess work history in terms of chronological order, do they not care about that then? Like, is it okay if I say, well, from 2000 till 95, 5, I was doing this. And
Absolutely, yeah.
if they don't want to know the details.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think you touched on it. You said you had a condensed version
Yeah.
and an expanded version.
Yeah.
It's good to have both.
Okay.
If asked, hey, I actually have my expanded version with me here. We can take a look at it. I did COBOL development in 1990.
Okay. I did actually.
I had a feeling. But no, yeah, that's totally fine. And I quite honestly, I don't hold a long resume against people. I mean, as long as, to your point,
Yeah.
what I'm looking for is, we've arrived at it in the first couple of pages, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And again, be cognizant, right? Like if you're applying for mobile development position, right? Mobile development doesn't have a lot of legacy code, right?
Right.
If you're working for an organization, I mean, one of the recent projects that we did, that was probably one of the most technically challenging projects we've had in the last few years, was to take Fortran code that we can no longer compile, we can no longer actually run the system. We didn't have all of the source code, we had bits and pieces of it, and they wanted it on a .NET platform, right? So we were pulling out some textbooks, let me tell you, there's a few people, right? So again, there's, look at and understand what the role is that you're applying for, right?
Okay.
And so something like that is going to need the detailed resume, whereas maybe, if you're trying to get into mobile and get some experience in that sort of thing, use the condensed version.
And one thing to add to that, from a recruiter's perspective, if you are working with agencies, it's always great to give them your full version, because we rely a lot of the time on keyword searches, especially with those roles with legacy systems and things like that. So having that word in your resume, you'll pop up in our search. And then if we do call you for a different role, you can always adjust your resume accordingly to that role, and it doesn't need to be the full-length resume.
That's a good point.
And from an organization perspective, we also rely on that as well too, because we look at your vacation entitlement of, if you're a 15, 20-year guy, we want to see that so that we can determine your vacation eligibility accordingly, because we do go by your direct years of experience and your indirect, and do that calculation as well too. So I think it's the best advice that's been given here is look at the role you're applying for, how many years are they looking for and asking for, and tailor the resume according to that. If they're looking for 10 years, then maybe you don't need to put the full 15 or 20, and what are they looking for to really just make it relative.
Great, thank you. May I ask one more question? Okay. This is again with respect, well, I guess it has to do with, again, somebody who has had experience. And I'm going to decide how much am I worth? And I went online, online searched different websites to see what kind of information I can gather. And I noticed that my impression is that the industry doesn't seem to follow a standard. I have seen people doing basically the same thing in 2 different companies, making about half as much as each other. Like that huge a difference. And I've seen that a lot. What's the situation with respect to that? I mean, how can one find out how much am I worth? I'm going to an interview, they're excited, they're gonna ask me, how much do you want? At some point, what am I gonna say? Because I don't wanna say something that's really low, and I don't wanna say something that's really high.
Right.
That's where companies like ours, we coach you on that, right? So we have an idea on what the company is willing to pay for the role, so we coach you on that, right? So there's no use us presenting, if we've been told by a client, a full-time role, that they're willing to pay $120,000, and you come in, you've been 20, 25 years, and you say, well, I won't go in for anything less than 150. Well, then we have that dialogue with you and say, well, look, we're not going to present you for that reason. But the reality is, in this city, the oil companies pay, in some cases, better than the other companies. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
Right.
So, depending on, how wealthy you are, how you want to do it, I mean, you can wait for a good job in an oil company, or you can take a little bit less in some cases, but that's not right across the board, but take something less to get a role, right? So, but your observation's absolutely right. I wouldn't say, I haven't seen 50% difference, I wouldn't say, but I've certainly seen 25% difference.
Yeah.
PM roles, BA roles, QA roles, all those, right? And that's That's just the reality.
I just go talk to a couple agencies. You'll get a sense pretty quickly. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll look at your resume and say, I mean, we've talked to 10 of you this week. This is what the average rate was. And again, talk to 3 or 4 agencies, you'll arrive at a number pretty quick.
Yeah. And in terms of, I can just speak to, like, we direct source, we don't go through an agency. And so when we're having those compensation discussions with individuals, right, we try to put the onus on the individual. There's no reason why you can't put the onus on the organization, right? To say, well, you know, I would, you know, like to hear what your range is in terms of what, you know, what you're offering for this particular position, right? So if you want to set your own, the other piece of advice I would recommend is to have a range versus having a number sometimes, right? I think that's an easier dialogue to have, first of all, and also I think it doesn't shut down conversations, right? Right away, whereas sometimes the $150 mark might just shut down the conversation, right? Whereas if you say, okay, well, probably not less than this, or you know, a good starting point is always, well, I'm making this currently, and I wouldn't want to stray much from that, right? So there's a few ways without being very, I think the big thing is it's, you know, is being somewhat flexible, at least initially, so that they feel that there's some, you know, room there. If you are flexible, if you're not, be honest about it, right?
Very
Don't
true.
waste everybody's time.
And recognize that there's a total compensation package. So the base salary is just one component of the total compensation package. So, you know, when you're getting to that point, and if you're at that offer negotiation stage, you know, really take a look at what else am I getting with regards to this opportunity. You know, Kim's given you some great advice, and it's true, you know, offer a range, and if you don't have a range or don't think you're really clear on what that range should be, then definitely, you know, how much more are you looking for in that next role from where you currently are, and know where your line in the sand is.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jim Dorsch. I'm expecting to graduate later this year, and my question has to do with postings that I've now started to look at on the internet. I've noticed that a lot of the larger companies like Amazon and Google, they sort of make it quite easy for students to know that their resume will get consideration. Like they'll mention in the posting that, you know, 0 to 1 year's experience and maybe proficiency in something like Java or C or C++. But then you look at the postings of other companies and they'll list a dozen different technologies, and they don't really say what sort of experience level they might not necessarily be, or that they would be looking for. And so my question is, when a student who's about to graduate looks at these, would you recommend that they throw in resumes even if they have a subset of what a company is looking for in terms of requirements, or?
Yeah, I would personally. So in my experience, and I write the job descriptions myself, right? Usually what it is it's my ideal candidate that I know I'm never going to find. But hey, you never know, it's a needle in a haystack, right? So it is a bit sometimes of a laundry list, right? With the recognition that if we get a chunk of this, you know, that will probably be, you know, enough. Some of the panel talked a bit earlier about quite often a company will hire for attitude and aptitude, because we can train for skills, right? So, you know, and usually companies are pretty good at, you know, required versus nice to have, right? And so, you know, there's probably some level of that you want to pay attention to, right? But definitely you don't have all those nice to haves or that sort of thing. That's okay, because if you're really strong in this and you're a good fit with the organization, that's what we're looking for.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I guess unless there's any last takers for questions, it is coming up about 8:15, and we kind of plan to go to somewhere between 8 and 8:30, so we're pretty much bang on the money. Is there anybody else out there with a burning question? Otherwise, I would like to take a few moments to just thank our panelists. I think they were really informative, and I appreciate their time. They, other than maybe a bottle of water, have a little lunch before they started. We're totally a nonprofit, so they're here out of the goodness of their hearts, and I totally thank them for that. I have a little thank you gift, but while we're waiting for those to come in, a round of applause, I think, for our panel. I'm sure they all brought lots of business cards,
I was
right?
about to say, selflessly, I'm actually here promoting our company.
So,
I do have business cards and would love to answer them. Yeah.
I think when they all kept saying network, 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 I think they were subtly hinting that I haven't gotten the names and or resumes from like at least half of the people in this room yet. So, try not to mob them, but I'd like to also introduce Leanne. Leanne is the Alumni Association representative for the University of Calgary, and she helps us with booking rooms and arranging for the food and the catering and all of these things that we are really grateful to have the support of the Department of Computer Science in providing. And she has brought in my gift bag. So I have a little present for each of our panelists this evening to thank them for their time. You all get the same thing. There's no random draw for the good prize, or if you didn't win the first ticket, then you get the first prize is a trip to Vegas, second prize is a Microsoft mouse. No, we don't do that. Everybody gets the same. And you're welcome to open it now. It's actually, for the benefit of the audience, I'll tell everybody what we got for them. We have a copy of Professor Tom Keenan's book, which is entitled Techno Creep. Tom Keenan is one of the speakers that we had a little bit earlier in the sequence of events and speakers at the University of Calgary Alumni Association events. And it's a very interesting book on how technology has evolved and become, in some ways, creepy over the years. Things like there's no farts at Disneyland. They can detect that and put a fart neutralizing chemical in the air. All the way through to
See, technology has a practical
practical applications throughout. And there's some really fabulous stories in there about readers for the blind at the New York Public Library when they first were invented in the 60s. And I am hoping that you'll all really enjoy it. And thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So if there is anyone who is a little bit less than outgoing, extroverted person and really had a burning question but just didn't want to get up here on camera and on the microphone, I'm sure at least a couple of our panelists are going to stick around, as well as all of our executive, almost all of them still here. I think one had to sneak out, but our Vice President, Drakshan, our Treasurer, Carol, and our new Communications Chairman, Lily. We're all here. We are all graduated over various years, and we all work in IT, and I had to bite my tongue 100 times because I didn't want to jump in and steal your answer. I've seen all of these things and or been that person on the other side of that interview. So feel free to network with some of us, too. Thank you.
Thank you.